Hopefully I don't have any echo here. Good morning, everybody. We are back again with a webinar today featuring Laura Rogers. And I'm so excited about this because Laura has always been someone who's been like a mentor to me. I go back several years and I remember watching Laura's Hangouts right here on YouTube. And I remember learning a lot about what she was doing with SharePoint. And since I'm a ex-SharePoint guru, or I guess I'm still a SharePoint guru, I look forward to listening to Laura because she made a natural progression into PowerApps and Flow and Power BI. So she's just really just one of those people you just want to grow up and be like her one day. But today, today I want to have her speak a little bit about an app that she did and give you a chance to learn from her some good practices and some lessons learned as she built a production app for her customer. I'm going to be interjecting every now and then and asking questions as usual, but I think you're going to be impressed with what Laura's going to show you today. So Laura, can you tell us a little bit about what set you up for this project? What was the thing that got this project rolling? What was the problem you were solving?
Well, it's the state of Hawaii. So this is government, this is legislature. So I actually learned a lot about government and how legislature works and how measures are passed and things like that while I was doing this project. But basically, there's this one day in January where all these measures come out, and these are bills that immediately need to be read through. And they actually come out on a public website where anyone can read them. And basically I have all these departments and in the state that multiple people in the departments need to read the measures. They need to sit and have comments, discuss whether they're going to support or oppose, or whether they just want to track and keep an eye on these measures and talk about the decisions they're going to make. And then they go to the hearings to hear the testimonies about the measure, and they do testimonies, they write up testimonies. And so they have all the data is the measures that they're interested in, the ones they're tracking, and the ones and they have hearings that they go to, they have testimonies that they write, and they have all these conversations they have about all the measures.
Wow, this sounds very deep. Like these are big. Was this a business critical type of an app, would you say?
Yes, and it's really interesting because it's this big time crunch. There's really this season where all these come out they come out in January, and this big push to do all this work and really just mainly in the first 3 months or so. So it kind of extends all the way out to July. It kind of fizzles out towards there, but it's a whole bunch in a short period of time that everything, the data is just coming down, things are coming out, things are happening really fast. So yeah, it's a little bit of pressure there.
Well, I can't wait to hear how you faced that challenge and how PowerApps, Flow, and anything else that you might have used may have helped. Please share with us whenever you're ready.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. And I'll go ahead and maximize that. There we go. All right, can you see it?
Yes, we see it.
That is the executive legislative tracking. This is our legislative tracking app. And we have some main things you can choose from. When you go to this front screen, you have all the list of measures. Those actually come out, like I said, that's public data. That the data that we're dealing with, the measures, is actually going to be in SQL inside of this Power App. And then the tracked measures is just the smaller list of just the ones that I decide that I'm interested in or our department is interested in. And then my measures are ones that have been assigned to me to do something with them or to work on them or make a decision.
And Laura, I might have missed this, but when I think of measure, I'm sorry, I must be a Power BI girl.
They're bills.
I think, okay, they're bills.
They're bills,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Measure is the same thing as a bill, from what I can tell.
Okay, like a bill of materials.
From what I've learned about the legislature. So I clicked to look at the measures, and these are thousands of measures. They start out, start coming out in January, and it ends up being 5,000-6,000 total once all is said and done. So it's thousands of measures. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about is kind of what we had to do to make sure that they could get to what they need, but be able to, you know, think about their performance of the app too with all this.
Looks really good, Laura. I like the left navigation. So on the left side, you have like where they can browse to, and then on the top, you have like ways to find stuff like filters and searches and keywords. Very well put together. I like it.
Yeah, and we have this navigation persisting through all the screens, so it just looks like it looks like it's just one thing, but it's just the exact same thing on all the screens in the app. And so what they can do is they can filter it by House bills, Senate bills, any particular type of bills to quickly get to what they're looking for. They can go search and just type one specific one like this. And there's that one. And anything that has HB 16 in it, it came up. And I can clear my search. And they also have a certain set of keywords that they're interested in, that they always want to look for, that this department is interested in. So this is actually a SharePoint list that they can manage that's their keywords. And so they can click their keywords up here. And this is a gallery that lets them go click on one of these, and that actually will filter. And maybe I don't have any that have that word I clicked on. But anyway, it's filtering the gallery according to whatever keyword I click on, and it just puts it right here.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that was fun. Cool. And then, so that's kind of, and then I actually have this little navigation that they can go, you know, jump to a specific subset of records if they want to, just because there's so many thousands of records. That does a filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you real quick through this whole app and all the little kind of cool things here and there, and then I'll talk about some of just the main points and I guess the most useful things for you that I can teach you that we did in here. So what they do is the first thing they do in their business process is they decide which measures they're interested in by doing keyword searches, and by reading through all these measures, they can actually go straight to the PDF, which is online. It actually takes them to the Capitol website that takes them straight to the PDF. They all have the same syntax of the file names, so that way it was easy for me to just put that syntax in the app and let them just click straight to it. Let me see if I can navigate back to where I was. And those buttons can take them straight to the website that has that public data if they want to read more. So they're going to decide which ones they want to track. So then they'll go check boxes next to one or more measures that they're interested in. And then we have this track selected measures button. Now this was really fun to build. What this does is it's going to be creating, for the ones that they're interested in, the ones they want to track, there's a tracked measures SharePoint list behind the scenes. So whichever ones they decide they want to track, it's going to create items in a SharePoint list with, you know, the names of these measures. So they can select one or more. They can see them here. They can change their mind if they want to. And then when they click next, I've got this cute little sort of wizard that I built. And what it's doing is now it's going to say, who do you want to assign these measures to? So these are actually just a bunch of test groups here. These are just the names of some groups of people that you would want to assign them to. So I can say I want to assign them to this group and this other group, and I just click this little arrow. So this is actually creating a collection in PowerApps. And what they're doing here, though, is they're going to decide, I'm going to say this group needs to be the primary group for this measure, and this group needs to be primary for this one. This other group's just going to be secondary, because that's what they need to just basically, when they're delegating these out, they need to categorize and say basically who's in charge of making decisions on these measures. So each measure for each group gets an item assigned to it.
And Laura, just a quick question. What do the groups represent? Are they security groups? I mean, how are they?
That's kind of a funny story. Those are actually SharePoint groups that we let them manage and put all the people in initially. And then I ran a PowerShell, I wrote a PowerShell script that went and got all the people out of the SharePoint groups and put them in a SharePoint list, just so that I could be able to have the list in this app. Now, this was just like a one-time thing where they just needed to be able to go like define who all the people were in all their little sort of departmental groups. So we didn't have to worry about having to run the script all the time, but that's what it was. They're really the names of SharePoint groups.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So it knows all these groups. And So basically when I click next, it's going to ask me, do I want to add a comment? So I want to let all the people in these groups know this is for you. And so I can say whether I want to notify them or not. And this is actually going to send them an email directly from here in the Power App. And that's one of like these huge tips that I love telling everybody, is that you can send emails straight from Power Apps. You don't have to use Flow to do it separately. So what it's going to do is it's going to create, this is actually another SharePoint list, because so this is like the parent list, the tracked measures, and this is going to be like the child list, where each of these sort of groups of people is a child item for each of these tracked measures, because they could have multiple groups of people assigned to each measure. So it's going to go create those in SharePoint and send an email all straight from this screen. So it's taken a second to do that. So I click Save and Send, and it's going to get an email. And it's sending, I don't know if you want to see the email. I'm going to probably go a little faster, but you could hear my
HTML formatting.
I did. Look at this.
Let me see. Ooh, looks good.
So there's the email that I received. It's even got a hyperlink straight to the capital.hawaii.gov site.
Okay.
Where I can go read more about it. And then this is going to take me straight to the Power App to that specific measure. And I'm actually going to be passing that parameter.
Wow. So you use param to get them to the right measure.
Yes.
Perfect.
So, okay. So then now they know which measures are tracked. And then they have this whole SharePoint list of tracked measures. This got to be pretty large. So it got to be a couple thousand. So it ended up being more efficient. And again, I'll talk about that in a minute, to just make them filter the measure type here before, instead of just giving them the entire list of all their thousands of measures. So we want them to pick a type first, or just, type a search first, instead of just presenting them with absolutely everything. And so this is actually a different screen. This is a gallery, and then this is a gallery inside of a gallery. So remember I said you could have a tracked measure, could have multiple child items, like all the different groups that are assigned. So now I can see for each tracked measure, I can see the multiple groups that are assigned to it in there. And then, so let's go take a look at before I go to all these different screens, we'll go take a look at the form. So I click the little arrow on a particular measure to go. Now, they still need to be able to see the data from SQL. So when they're reading about this measure and making decisions and things, they still need to be able to see all this data, the title and description, and be able to go click on a link. So it's got all this original data about the measure up here. We didn't want to have to copy all that data to the SharePoint list items every single time, because the data, could just exist one time in SQL. So all the data in the tracked measures list is really just kind of things they're doing and comments they're making. We didn't have to put all this extraneous information in there too. So this shows me all our different positions.
Love the tabs. The tabs.
Yeah. And then my tabs this is actually data about the whole tracked measure. So this parent item, the tracked measure, and I can go edit. This is a form. So I just had it in display mode, and then I put it in edit mode, and I can just make some changes here. And wrap up is really the same form. And I wrote a blog post about this, how to do tabs on your form. It's really the exact same form. You're just showing and hiding different fields, like the visible property. So I can edit that form, and I can save it. So again, that's the parent, that's the tracked measure. And then I can go look at all the positions that these groups have decided that they have. And I can see as they add comments, it's actually adding them to this little log here. And these are all the fields. And when I assign staff, I can decide if I want to notify them. And again, that's just sending an email straight from the Power App to whoever that person is. And if I approve one, I have the same thing where I kind of shove this little checkbox in here to be able to say, whether they want to notify. Basically, it's a director that will get a notification.
This is awesome, Laura. Does everybody who uses this app have the same capabilities? Just wondering.
No, actually, good thing you asked that. Those groups that I have basically the group name that has the word owners in it is where I'm putting the people it's really just one or two people who are considered like the legislative administrator. And they are the only ones that are going to see this admin button and this delete button and a couple of other things in here. So I have the visible property only showing if your name is in this list of owners, basically. And again, using that SharePoint list of where I extracted all the people out of the SharePoint groups that I mentioned, that's what I'm using in here to be able to know if the currently logged in user is one of those people.
Gotcha.
And then we got testimonies that they can upload in here. And so that's what the form looks like. I'm going to try not to spend too much time. I might come back in here and kind of poke around in here, but I just want to kind of give you more of an overview. I'm trying to go a little faster through it.
Okay, this is great. And what I've asked them, Laura, is to let me know which pieces of what you're showing they would most like to know about.
Oh, good idea.
That way we can kind of lean toward what the audiences want.
Yes.
Yeah. I have two questions I just want to ask so I don't forget. So there is a question temporally to you that I'll follow up with you. Ashok wants you to come and give a presentation in his community, but we can follow up on that offline, definitely. Another question you have is Data Spinners wants to know, get some tips on how you handle the multiple filters, a search plus a filter plus another filter.
Ooh, that was, take a look at the gallery.
Maybe that's later, And then Jack wants to filter a SharePoint list of over 10,000 items, which of course, I basically said that's not going to be something you can do right now. So Data Spinners wants to confirm something. He says you actually need a Flow license to get the emails to be sent from the apps.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't say you didn't need Flow. I just said you don't need to go to the Flow interface. So yeah.
No, you don't need Flow to send emails. You just need
the connectors.
The connectors, right. Whereas you can use unmodified SharePoint Trigger to avoid this. Just to confirm, you actually need a Flow license to get the emails to be sent from an app. You do not. So I would have to disagree, Data Spinners. Maybe we're thinking about something different. But you can definitely use the unmodified SharePoint Trigger for a couple of ways of handling that. So we can take that offline. I'm not sure what that's about, but definitely Laura has sent the email directly from the Power App in this case. Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
So each measure gets assigned to a whole group of people, but they're going to actually tell one particular person that this is for them. This is their baby. They are the one in charge of this measure and what happens with it. So that way I can go to my measures, and this is going to show me all the ones that are actually assigned directly to me. And I can also see, it says, Laura Rogers, these measures are for you. I can also go do searches through this list, and I can send this list to myself in an email. I'll go ahead and just send that. And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about, is being able to send lists of things like that, like reporting. Someone recently wrote a blog post in the PowerApps community, I think, about how to do that too, how to email a report. But I'll show you guys that.
Yep.
So these are all the ones that are assigned to me. And when I click from this gallery, it's taking me to the exact same form. So I only have one form screen in this whole app, but I have a whole bunch of different screens that have all these different galleries and different ways of looking at things. But they're all just pointing you to the exact same form. So I'm basically using a variable to be able to say which form I want to go look at. So it's not, when you're looking at the form, you're not just saying, just show me the form that's selected in this one gallery or something. So that was fun to figure out too. So then grouped is important to them. They want to be able to quickly go look at a particular group of people and see which measures are assigned to that group. And I can see some quick, metadata about these items here in this list. And then I can send that one as well. And so basically this is just that same list of groups of people that I can flip between. And I can also sort in here. So actually I recently did one of my SharePoint Power Hours about how to do this exact thing right here with the little sorting with the little double arrows. So yeah, I demoed how to do that. I think it was called Power Hour sorting or something, Power App sorting. It was probably about a
Yes,
month.
I remember. I remember. Yeah,
And
by the
then,
way, you've got a lot of people saying this is awesome. They're all loving the way this app is. David said this is stunning. Very, yeah. So they're all thrilled. Thumbs up all over the place.
it was fun to build. It took a few months. Yeah. Okay, so this is the reporting was really important to them. They wanted to be able to generate reports, and previously they had done this in Microsoft Access. So a couple years ago, this had been an Access app, and they were actually downloading this stuff and importing it into Access every single, like multiple times a day from that online data. So anyway, they need to be able to do reports. So I created all these drop downs, and I recently did this in my SharePoint Power Hour too, showed you how to do the drop downs and the filtering for reports. So basically I can go pick one or more of these just options here at the top for some of my metadata. And I can say whether I want a particular group or person. And then when I click go, it's going and collecting that data and presenting it to me on the screen. And again, same concept. I can see all the information about the bills. I can go click to open that exact same form. And then I can also send this. Now this send is kind of fancy. Look at this. I click send. Do I want to send it to a particular group of people that's listed here on the screen? Or do I want to send it to a particular person that's listed in the assigned staff just on this screen? Or do I want to just type somebody's name and send it to them? So I'll just...
That's awesome. I love the way your dialogue fades away. Did you use Veronica's blog, or this is really cool, the way your dialogue softens the background.
Oh, no, I don't even... Yeah,
So
no,
cool.
I think I just did. I don't know. I just think I made it gray I don't remember what I did.
It's awesome.
This one little screen took hours and hours and hours. So,
oh.
Yeah. So that's going to do another one of those things where it's going to go iterate through all those items that I see on the screen and go send them all an email. That one might actually take a minute. So we'll see. But anyway, so it's looking, these are all collections, and it's looking at just from the filtered list of data that I have here, just that subset of groups that I see on the screen, instead of presenting me with every single group and every single person when I choose that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
While that's spinning its send, what would you say? Because I noticed you've used collections quite a bit here. What do you think is the biggest value with the collections?
Well, one of the things that I use collections a lot for in here is to be able to present a drop down of a subset of information, a filtered list of information, or performance is another thing that collections are good for. In this case, when I initially started building this app, like all that SQL data, and all the tracked measures, I was trying to do one big collection that for every tracked measure, it was pulling like all the description and title of everything from SQL and trying to put it in one big collection of tracked measures. And that ended up being really inefficient. And once they got more than like 50 or 60 tracked measures, it would take like 10 minutes for this app to open, because it was trying to collect and mash together and combine all this too much data. So I ended up, all these labels that you see on all these screens that have the title and description and status and stuff, those are all just labels directly showing the SQL data with just a lookup. Instead of trying to do one big collection that's got all the data together. So,
and do you find it beneficial to do your collections on the screen before, or do you have any best practices on when to load a collection?
I like to not put them on start, because then when you put them on start, that little loading PowerApps generic screen takes too long. And I like to let them get into the app first and then do it on visible.
Gotcha.
And then do it on visible, like this little my measures. Yeah. I'm actually collecting my own measures when they go to this screen. I'm not collecting every single thing like right when they open the app. I'm just, a lot of the stuff I'm collecting.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not putting it all in one place. Now, you had a big question from Russell here. Is this app embedded on a SharePoint page?
No, I'm just in Chrome right now. I'm just opened it straight directly. Here's the report that I just got emailed to me.
Wow, your table, so that's HTML, true.
Yeah.
Is HTML true property? And then you're using a table format here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very
Yeah.
well done.
And here's another one. This is the one where I went on to my measures and clicked to send it. So it's pretty. I didn't get too fancy with the table. I mean, I could have done a lot of crazy fancy HTML and stuff, but I didn't spend the time doing that. But you
No, I
could.
think simple. I think simple is best because you don't want to have to get to a place where you need CSS or something.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
All right. So I'm pretty much. Oh, in the admin screen, it's just where they can admin all their little list of keywords, and then I have like this central SharePoint list that they could submit an issue if they want to, like fill out a little form saying what their issue is. So, and then I'll go ahead and crack it open if you guys, unless there's anything I need to address. Let me see. All right. So Audrey told me to kind of narrow it down and not, I don't want to get too overwhelming because again, I spent months on this app. So we don't want to get too in the weeds with all the stuff that we have here. But some of the major things that I had, and of course we can go by some of the things that we get a lot of questions on too, Audrey. Large lists and the filtering, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about this requirement that they had for printing and how we just, sent a table in an email and they could print the email if they want. And then we'll talk about the email notifications. So unless we get something else that's really popular, a lot of people are asking about. So I'll go ahead and go here on my screens here. Dun, dun, dun. I also had another screen that was not the admin screen that's like for the end user admins, but I have like an IT admin screen too, where this is like I would test stuff and I would put buttons in here and I would try stuff out. And like this is where I keep the HTML that, I can edit for the emails and just some formatting. Like Audrey taught me this great trick of keeping my formatting like in a central place. Like here's an input box, here's a toggle button, and I use these. It's called text standard input. And I have this toggle button that's toggle standard. And everywhere in my app, I reference those central things. That's another just real quick thing that I wanted to point out is like this menu here that you see, it's the exact same set of icons that I have on every screen. But for all the formatting, like the size, and I have like the hover color and all that stuff, it's just referencing one central place. And all the other screens just, like if I go to one of the properties of this one, you'll be able to see that it's referencing like this ICO home for just pretty much everything, all the properties in it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and go to a gallery.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll go to my tracked measures. All right. So this is the gallery that's got the drop down filtering and the search box on it. And I'll go ahead and now I don't know if this one's a good example because let me see. I don't know if this one might be too complicated to try and hold on. Let me see. See, the thing about this stuff, Audrey, is that I actually
so I can see it's so this
a lot.
It is a lot, but it's an if statement of 3 branches. It looks like.
Basically, if they've got something selected in the dropdown, but so it's looking at a couple different things. Do they have something selected in the dropdown box, and do they have something in the search box? And so it's looking at those as criteria, and it's showing something different depending on which of those are the case. So do they have something selected? If it's just recent, which is the default, and the search box is blank, it's just basically showing everything for this year sorted by the most recent stuff. So that's why I called that default filter recent, because I'm just going to show them the most recent things that have been updated, measures that have been updated. And so that's what they get right when they go to this screen. And then if it's not equal to recent and the search box is blank, then it's going to go ahead and filter. So everybody call them filter. and it's going to filter this. This is a SQL database by, of course, the year 2018 again. And then it's also going to filter it by whatever measure type they selected from that dropdown. And then if it's recent and they don't have anything, basically it's like 4 criteria. Do they have something in the dropdown and not in the search box? Do they have something in the search box and not the dropdown? Do they have something in both? Do they have something in neither? So that's what the 4 things are.
But and I will also add in the description. So both you and I have done a composite filter video. So I'll just put both of those in the description as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I know this is something you have to kind of practice a little bit, you know, but I totally can understand it. I love the way you're using the formatting to help this be readable. It's very cool.
Shift enter.
Yep. Love it. Shift enter. My favorite friend.
Huge. Okay. So does that answer? So with the large lists and filtering, we couldn't present them with all these measures on any of the, pretty much this measure screen or the tracked measure screen. We couldn't just present them with all of them. So like for the tracked measures, by default, there isn't anything here. It just says pick one.
Yep.
That's what it says when you arrive on the screen. So that was my way of getting around and making them have to pick something to be able to see or search for something. So instead of giving them everything.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's such a, and I'm assuming that when you made these decisions on what they would be able to do, it's based on requirements, like how they work every day.
Well, it was based on going live and it being horrible and having issues. So
really,
it went live and I was like scrambling to put this in place and fix it after it was live, because the list got so large so fast. It got, because we didn't have thousands of items in it when we were testing.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to do a little bit of capacity planning and say, okay, how big is this going to get?
Yes.
And I think I've done that in the past with customers where I say, well, how many are you submitting per week? And then we times that by 30, by 4 for the month. And then we times that by 12 to get the year. And then we kind of can figure out, okay, how many items will we be working with at any given time? And I think that's important also when determining what data source you should use, right? How big is the list going to be? And how much data do they need to see? So I think sometimes just because there's going to be 50,000 items in the list doesn't mean you need 50,000 for the app. So it totally depends on, how you discuss this in the beginning. And I do suggest, and I know you probably live this too, Laura, discussing this at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time, or I was under the impression for some reason that it was only going to be a couple of hundred tracked measures, but then the list got very large and I had to, scramble to, put some things in place like this too.
Well, you did a great job.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
So, and also, let's go back to let's go look at what we're doing when this app loads too. We'll go on start. I'm only doing a couple of things on start. I'm not really doing any collect. This mostly has to do with like the parameter that I was telling you about, but I'm setting a variable of who the current user is in there. And so that's kind of important because the next thing I was going to show you is when it's on visible, that's when it's doing all these collections that we were talking about. And that has to do with the large lists and filtering and kind of balancing like what you need to collect and versus what you need to, if you can just directly show the data. One of the big things in planning is that I went through and everything that was we're not using SharePoint. Nobody's going to a SharePoint list in this project and editing anything directly in SharePoint. So what I did is I went in there and removed all the choice fields, everything that was a drop down, just a choice field in SharePoint. You could even remove your lookups. I removed them all and made them just text fields. And that makes it much easier to deal with in PowerApps when you're wanting to filter and sort and be able to like do anything with those types of fields, filter by category or anything, because that way you won't have your delegable issues.
Yep, I have done that as well in the past. I mean, sometimes it's not advisable because people want to use the form on SharePoint. But if you can isolate the input to PowerApps, then you're good.
Yep. And I just made I made the drop down boxes just directly in PowerApps, just pointing to a text field. So yeah, you can do that. So this is collecting basically what groups the logged in person is a member of. It's getting this collection of tracked measures, and it's filtering it, and it's collecting a collection of positions. So I found that at first I was doing a whole bunch of these add columns, and that was one of the performance things is I was doing way too much of that. I was taking way too long. So I kind of narrowed it down, and that helped with performance as well. So it's all in the sort of large list category there, all these little measures I had to take here and there. And I really, like, once the thing started slowing down, when it started getting so much data in it, it was like, go in and find every single little thing that's, taken too long and go figure out how to make it more efficient. So that was a fun little exercise.
I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So Nav K asks, what sort of custom code have you used to extend the PowerApps user look and feel? Did you use some type of custom code to extend this look and feel?
No, there's no such thing as custom code in PowerApps, right?
That's right. Well, yes, that's true. I mean, we can extend it with custom APIs and custom connectors, but
no,
in this one.
I just clicked on every single one of these icons and clicked into every single one of these little properties and set them all individually, and spent hours of my life doing that. But once I did that, we're able to have like this centralized navigation where I could go change something on the main screen and it would affect all the other screens because everything's pointing to a central place. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And you did mention earlier when it came to the SharePoint groups, just a follow up to Russell's question, that you were taking the group members using a script, right? A PowerShell script, and that group members list was going into a list. And I assume you sync that every now and then. Is that what you did?
Every now and then, but the users really just needed, in this case, they just needed to do it one time. But yeah, you just run the script every now and then that if you wanted to, and the script would wipe the whole list clean and then go, basically every single row is a person and a group name. So Any person could be in there multiple times if they're in multiple groups. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's what that was. Okay, so I guess the next topic would be that whole printing requirement we were talking about. I don't know if you guys watching have printing as a requirement in a lot of cases, but trying to print a Power App just in the browser is not the prettiest thing. So for this requirement, what I did was I told them, you're not going to really want to try and hit the print button. So what we're going to do to satisfy the requirement is to let you email this report to yourself, and then once you have this list, you can print it. I had even some people would like copy and paste it into Excel, and then because that's what they're used to, and that they kind of play around with it in Excel and do their thing once they had that subset of information that they wanted.
That's a great idea. So actually, when they click on it, it sends themselves an email. Is that what that's
right? So this is an example of one of them. So some people were actually going in the email, selecting the table and pasting it into Excel.
Oh, I get you.
That's the tool they're used to using. So they wanted to be able to manipulate and do things with it in Excel.
Will you show us your formula for that?
Oh yeah, that's what I'm going to show you next. All right, So we'll go to the My Measures screen. And I have the send button here. So my send button just basically does this variable report pop as my report pop up. So I'll go ahead and click that. And that's what basically this one screen is just sits for me. I'm just going to send it to myself. So it only just says, are you sure you want to send it? So the OK button is where all the magic's going to happen. Oh, it looks like I forgot to put these behind the big gray box. My big gray rectangle that obfuscates everything behind my pop-up box. All right, this is fun. So this is the Office 365 send email function. And so my variable is that current user. So like right remember right when the app opened, I was getting what the current user's email is because I use it in lots of different places in here. So I have who I'm sending it to is the current user. And you can see up here the syntax: to, subject, body, and then I have some extraneous things here I can use. So the subject is measures assigned or routed to me. And so it's just straight text. And the body is where that's where the complexity happens. So this is where I've got HTML. And then anything that needs to be a quote in your HTML, you need to put it and turn it into a double quote. So I just manually went in here and found everything that was a single quote and changed it to a double quote. Can you imagine how tedious that would be if it was like a lot of complicated HTML? And that would be, yeah. So these are the headings: measure, group, category, title, position, approval, director attention, etc. And then I'm doing this concatenate. So I'm concatenating. That is what is going to go iterate through a list of something for me. So the concatenate, what do I want to concatenate? Concat through, and actually concat and concatenate are two different functions in PowerApps. What do I want to go concat through? A filtered list. I want to filter this collection of my own positions where by things that are not untracked, basically. That's just a filter that they didn't change their mind and decide not to track that measure. So it's just a filtered list. And then these are TDs. This is the body of the table. And then this is where I put every single field that is going to show in that table. And this is what took it so long when I clicked to send it, I think, is that it's actually going over to SQL for every single measure. And it's getting, what is this? The title. It's getting the title directly from the SQL database and putting it in this report. And then the position, approval status, and then if director attention is true, it's going to say the word yes. If it's, and then if it's dead is false, it's going to say the word yes. So it's just basically translating it so it doesn't say true, false, all down the page. And then is HTML true? That's important. So that's a pretty simple one. So again, this is what it ends up looking like. This is where that title that comes from SQL, and then this is where they had their little yeses if it was director attention or alive. Alive is the opposite of dead.
So this is awesome. So I do want to point out that this is basic HTML formatting for a table, with the exception of you cannot put the quotes in the same way. So you'll notice that in Laura's quotation marks and her and signs, so you have to do a little bit of reformatting kind of to get them to work well, to avoid PowerApps translating the quotations as a text input as opposed to the literal text for HTML. And so we'll share with you on a blog I think there is a blog that we've already talked about this, and I can share that link with you. Another tip I want to give you on the side, Laura, if you don't mind, is you can also connect Power BI to your intake. So whatever your data source is that you're submitting the data to, you can connect Power BI to it, and then have people subscribe to a weekly PDF of that report. The nice thing about using Power BI is they will also get an export to Excel that they can do from Power BI. So that's another gap fill that I've kind of done in the past. And
yeah, if you've got that, definitely use it.
Yeah, if you've got Power BI, yeah. And I think it comes with most subscriptions. You don't really need a pro in this case. You just kind of need a place where they could export data and subscribe to a weekly email with a picture or whatever, or with the data in it. The other thing I would like to suggest to you is that, well, not suggest you, but let you know, we are working on what can be done to improve reporting, because we can feel that this is something that people want. So it is something that we're considering. And if you have a special business scenario where this would work, please post it on the Ideas Forum and let other people vote on it. It is important to kind of see how many people are asking for a particular subject. So please, please, please go to the forum ideas and post your ideas of what you would like to see when you print and how you'd like reporting to work. Thank you, Laura, for letting me interject there.
Okay, no problem. Something that I did in having to do with the emailing stuff to yourself, not a listed report, but something that I did as We have various places in here where I'll go ahead and click cancel, where you can email something to somebody, or notifications that go out and stuff like that. I actually put the syntax of the email in a central place in this IT admin. So this is called track email body. I don't know why I called it that. And then I've got track email subject. So all the different places that I'm everywhere in the app where I need to be able to send one particular measure to somebody, I'm just referencing this subject and this body. And then it's basically using a variable for whichever particular measure I happen to be looking at. So variable selected measure. So that's one thing you can do to make it efficient, is try to, things that you use multiple times, try to keep them in a central place. And then I'm keeping this in a central place that it makes it easy for us, those of us that are collaborating on actually designing the app, can have an easy place to be able to go. It's not buried in a function somewhere. It's just like in our sort of admin screen. I did the same thing for some of the report. This is my HTML report email body right here. So some of the reports refer to this as well. And then this is basically just showing what it looks like when it spits out from this HTML formatting. Let's see. So that was the printing requirement that I was talking about. And then one of the other major things I wanted to show is just all those notifications themselves. And I want to show you that the track measure, the screen where I go track measures, and that little wizard. If I don't know, that seems that to me was one of the most fun things, because I made it kind of pretty, and thought you might want to see how I did that. Because this is doing patching and all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. So let me kind of dig into this. All right, when I'm selecting those track measures, it's actually doing a collect, and it's collecting them into this collection. And this little window, this little gallery, is just showing them the list of things that they've collected, just the list of stuff they've checked the box next to in the gallery. And then when I click the next button here, it's doing a for all. For all is very powerful. It's one of my favorite functions. It's always one of the first ones I like to teach when I start really getting into functions in my PowerApps class that I teach. I do a for all. So for basically everything in this list, I
love for all. One of my favorite functions. I really do love it.
It's patching. So it's patching over to my tracked measures list in SharePoint. And it's patching these specific fields. So it's telling it which fields to go put over there in SharePoint. And then it's basically setting the variable that's going to show me the next section in this little wizard that I'm in. So it's just for everything in this collection, it's creating an item in SharePoint. So I'll go do that real quick. And then you see little dots going across. And then these groups, again, this is a collection of just the distinct of that list of SharePoint groups that I was telling you about. And then, so let's go look and see what this one does. This is just collecting whatever they just picked in that drop-down box and putting it and adding it to this collection. And then it's basically setting another variable that will make this section light up. Variables are very powerful, right, Audrey? In PowerApps, we use variables to show and hide things all over the place.
I love variables. They help me with that. You know, and we're having a little conversation in the chat, Laura, on this topic of show and hide. You know, a lot of times we talk about security versus visibility, right? In the case of a variable, it can help you hide things. Security, but it's not about security. It's more about convenience, because the security is at the data source level.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is actually patching. It's when I click on these, it's actually editing this data in this little collection right here. So it's patching this value. Say I'm putting the role as primary. I'm editing this item that I'm clicking on, and I'm putting the role as primary. And if I click on secondary, it's making the role secondary. And so they can go through and quickly do this in all their groups. And then this one, this next button is the fancy one because let's see. No, wait, it's not this one. This one's only just taking me to the next screen. The save and send one is fancy because we have a lookup field. So remember, I told you we have parent items and we have all these child items. Well, look at this thing. So this is actually creating.
Okay, I get it. Yep.
It's patching. It's for everything in that list of
data
groups. It's patching over to this positions list in SharePoint. And since this is a lookup field, I had to do this crazy OData syntax to make it create the children pointing to the correct parent. And then it's sending an email. So this is where when I check the box, so if check notify is true, that was that little checkbox that you saw. And this is not a SharePoint. This is not a form control. These are on this screen. These are all just individual little controls that I put on here. This is not an official form. You know what I mean? These are not cards or anything. So for everything, it's sending an email to, and it's got to go concatenate. It's got to go through a group of people. It's got to go send an email to everybody in all those groups that I selected. So that's why it got kind of complicated. So it's going to go concatenate that group of people to only send it to the people in that specific group. And then it's going to send, this is the subject. And then this is the body where it says, you know, the name of the measure and the group of people and the URL and all that stuff about the measure that's being assigned. So this is, it's also doing a for all, and then it's collecting a bunch of more stuff. And I'll show you the email that it sent. And I'm not going to try. I'm going to not get in the weeds too far, but this is that email that we're looking at right now. It's nice and pretty, formatted blue, and it's got hyperlinks in it. So this is the hyperlink to, this is the URL. It's already a data in a field of the URL straight to the web where that bill's information is. And then this is a URL that is going to take me straight to that Power App and pass this parameter measure ID and then give me that specific measure so they can click in the email and click go to measure. And I can't even get into parameters in this, and we don't have the bandwidth for that, but that was pretty fun too.
That sounds fun. Do you think, Laura, just two questions for you from me, right? Do you think that maybe you can share the one that sends the email, you know, if we black out the SQL database name, and the one that you use for the groups, if you could maybe share that with me, then I can post it on the webinar page for everyone, because there was a bunch of people trying to print screen and, you know, here on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, also definitely there's somebody that wrote a whole blog post about that too. But
okay.
Recently on the PowerApps community, and their blog post is probably much better. You'll probably learn more than me sending you a bunch of code. But yeah, I can send you that.
Thank you, Laura.
That was one of those things that was like so cool to figure out, the concat and the HTML and sending it as a table. Like I almost didn't want to share it. You know, I share everything and I blog everything, but it was one of those things like I almost didn't want to share it because it was just so awesome.
No, I totally get you. You know, sometimes it's like that. Yes. But yeah, we got we got data spinners also asking for some help on getting better at HTML. And to your point, there is a blog on that topic that I will post in the description area, but we probably can do some follow-up videos on that topic. I know I've spoken to John about doing some for Flow as well, and he said he would. It's on his backlog. So both of us will kind of get on that topic. More people want HTML, Laura, follow your example.
Yeah. What else? So some of the main things I was going to talk about were the large lists and the filtering and the collecting, and then that printing requirement, and then notifications and emails. Those were the three major things that I wanted to cover. So yeah. Is there anything else pressing?
This is awesome. I'm looking for questions that I might have missed. I think the three things that I kind of pulled out of this that I'm really excited about is I like your method of finding things and getting around in the app are consistent all the way through. Like, so at the top of the screen is always where you get your filters and your search. On the left side is where you have your navigation and kind of can get to some commonly used filters as well and reports. I love that. The second thing I like a lot is here on this screen where you actually embed the gallery inside the gallery to get that parent-child relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pure genius, right? And you can't really tell when you're looking at the app that there's a gallery inside of a gallery. It looks like, it's just a advanced app that did something fancy, but you did, and in that smaller gallery, you're looking up to see what relationship it has with this item, right? The
Right.
actual, yep. So that's great. And then the third thing I love is your emails. I think your emails are off the hook. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you did really well with HTML formatting. I remember the conversation we had on this, and all I kind of said was have a box where you can test it, but you just took that and you flew with that, and you did so much more with it. So really awesome application you've put together. Now you said this took months, right?
Right.
Any big lesson learned you'd like to share with everyone that, either always do this or never do that? What would you like to share that people who are building apps like this might save time and maybe do it in less time than you did?
Definitely the whole knowing how large your lists are going to get thing is important. And the knowing if it's okay to just go ahead and remove all the choice fields from SharePoint ahead of time and not have to bother with them, then definitely do that. And I'll just point out real quick in my app where I was talking about getting rid of choice fields, but I didn't really show you what to do instead of them. But these are all just tables in here where I just type the values. They're all just static. So all these are just little tables inside of a drop down. And so you can do that instead of having, so those are important things to know ahead of time, is the quantity of data. And if you can get rid of all like choice fields, people fields, and lookup fields, if you're never going to be using them in SharePoint, then just don't have them in your list. Just use all text.
Okay, and I'm getting a couple of questions about connectors that I can follow up with them and get them to post that on the forum ideas, because someone has asking for about a Cosmos database, and you didn't use that. I'm assuming in this case you use SQL and you use SharePoint. David's really cute. He says, I'm looking around for my jaw so that I can ask some questions. So his mouth is falling open looking at your work. They're all saying this is really cool. I mean, I've got such positive feedback on this. A couple of licensing questions, a couple of connector questions that I can follow up on. But Laura, this is spectacular.
Well, thanks.
Your dialog boxes are blowing me away. I forgot to mention those. I like the way the rest of the app kind of fades away, and looking at your dialog box. I know you said you spent a lot of time on those.
Yeah.
But you know what?
It's my rectangle called Big Gray Box.
I love it. Willie has one last question we can cover for the last 3 minutes here. He says, can you talk a little more about the PowerApps URL parameter and how it can navigate? And can you talk to us about parem, the parem function you use to navigate?
Yeah, that's not a 3-minute conversation, though.
No.
That's like a 15-minute demo. That's not really something I can just show real quick.
Okay.
Sorry. Take my PowerApps class.
Oh, I know. Yes. So Laura is teaching PowerApps. And so where do they go to get a list of your upcoming classes, Laura?
IWMentor.com.
IWMentor.com. You definitely are a mentor in the true sense of the word, Laura. You're amazing. Everything you do just blows me away. Aww. Whether it be on SharePoint or PowerApps or Flow, whatever you're doing, it's just awesome. Thank you so much for coming here today. Those of you that are interested in IWMentor, go to IWMentor.com where you can sign up and see the courses. Everybody said great job. A bunch of people said thank you. Awesome. We got to have you back again, Laura. Okay, we got to have you back. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming today. And of course, you know what I'm going to say, right? Happy power apping. Keep it going. Talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.